literally see like my drink hiding in the corner. Uh, things might look a little different. It's probably going to take me a little bit to kind of get it all changed and acclimated, but I ended up replacing my webcam, and like I just set it up because it just arrived like right before stream. But in theory, it should be better than my old one once I get all the settings in place. I kind of got it just like quick because if I use the default settings, I should show you guys. It looks super dark. It's just kind of hilarious given I have a fairly good light right there. Actually, I can quick. I think I could quick swap it to make it look like that. Let's see. I just have to do. So I apologize inherently. Oh no, it's set up that way. Okay. Or at least that's right here. If I change the exposure to where I'm not controlling the exposure, do you see how much darker this gets? This is the camera doing its own work rather than me controlling it. I don't know, maybe that looks better on your guys' end, but to me it just looks like super dark. Oh man. But yeah, I'm trying to do some small changes. There was some stuff on the old Prime Day sale. Um and I've been using like the same webcam for I don't know, I think like 9 years at this point. It's like, God's due for an upgrade. We'll give it something until I can do something like super nuts. But yeah, yeah, we're doing a slight upgrade, a little bit of XP. We finally leveled up. It only took years. But yeah, so I mean, what do we got to cover? We didn't stream last week because it was my wife finally, after all her recovery from surgery and all that kind of stuff, she went back to streaming. And that was literally her 3-year anniversary of doing streaming. So she really, really wanted to be on July 1st. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. I'll cancel. I'll be tech support. And there was a lot of tech support that had to happen because we did lots of changes to settings and we changed some of the wrong ones. So I had to like debug those things and fix them. But then eventually got her going and, all was happy in the world. And I think that was at like 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. We got it all set up correctly because it was kind of a show before then. All right, I'll get on topic. So as a heads up, there's a good chance we'll see how I'm feeling, but there's a good chance I actually can only stream like a shorter period tonight. And let me explain. I got 2.5 hours of sleep last night. No matter what I try to do, I could not get to sleep. When I finally did get to sleep at like 2:30ish in the morning, 2 in the morning, my dog was having a nightmare and woke me up. I had to make sure my puppy was okay, and then I could go back to sleep. But yeah, I've had nowhere near enough sleep, and it will depend on when the like inevitable crash hits me, because I've basically been going on just stubborn refusal and caffeine since 5 a.m. Because I get up super early for work. Anyway, so there's a chance that if I start like really feeling myself crashing out as far as energy is concerned, that we'll end a little early. But that's why I picked a short topic, something simple tonight. And let me give you background on why I'm asking this question. For many folks that run especially small YouTube channels, we get bombarded by emails from like all the cheap random goods that Chinese sellers on Amazon want to sell you. And they're almost never apply to your channel, right? It'll be like, oh, here's this outdoor light, or here's this like dog vest. And it's like, none of this is my channel. Or like one of the funniest ones I got a while back was a generator. And funny enough, I do know a fish creator that had very clearly taken that deal. But there are larger channels. So they probably got a much better deal than I was offered. I was basically offered a small discount code to buy one for myself. I was like, I'm not buying some like $1,000 generator. Get out of here. Um, so normally I ignore most of these because they just clutter my inbox with a bunch of garbage. And I've just learned over the years that almost never is it applying to fish. And occasionally, like someone like Higer will reach out to me. Um, but there was one company that reached out to me with like a waterfall box kit for ponds. And I do have an old, like one of those Rubbermaid kind of oval totes that's 120-ish gallons or so that I haven't used in a while. A stock tub, right? And so I kind of considered actually like taking that particular one because at least it is a fish oriented product. And when I was looking at it, it wasn't terribly expensive. So if people were actually interested in it, um, they could get a cool waterfall box if you were trying to basically turn, think like the Daco tubs that Corey uses for all his outdoor tubs, or any of the Rubbermaid tubs. It's really designed to hook onto a ledge of those, or even like some of the cheap quotation marks around cheap. They're not that inexpensive in the grand scheme of things, but the like liners to do your own pond in your backyard, right? Where they're a thick plastic, very similar to the Rubbermaid. So it's basically you dig out the hole, you put the liner in, and then it's just a quick pond. These boxes are designed to just hook on the top. They put a water pump in there and circulate water. And my thought was, if people wanted me to, I would do it. Because I normally don't do product stuff unless it's something that I'm buying specifically because it's a more typical aquarium thing, right? We've done Fluval lights. I've been lucky enough to have Fluval send me a couple of things. And I'm hoping sometime soon we hear about the new generation of their lights, because I love the Fluval Connect app. I think it's a significant improvement to the old Fluval Smart app. But I don't think they've like fully released everything yet. I know some of the Aqua Skies are available, but I'm sure they'll get back to me at some point. I have had communications, and they told me, hey, nationwide launch hasn't occurred yet. When we're getting ready for that, we'll reach out to people. And I was like, cool, thanks. So hopefully that happens soonish, because I imagine they want to be hitting before the like holiday season. So yeah, basically, long story version is I actually saw an aquarium product for once. Should I do a summer tub? Now, it should be noted, in the Seattle area, Washington, our summer tub window is kind of narrow because our weather gets significantly cooler overnight than a lot of hotter places that naturally have like that summer tub weather all the time. But we're getting to a point now where we're in at least the 60s overnight, and that makes it possible for a number of different fish species. The question would also be like what fish we try to do. I mean, inherently, I kind of want to do rainbow fish because I'm the rainbow fish psycho. But yeah, that would be half the reason why I would do the big 120-gallon tub. Is like, can we get some babies out of it if we put a bunch of plants in there? Because I've got plenty of plants I can spare. I've got Java fern everywhere is really what it comes down to. But yeah, I thought I would just ask you folks and the replay crew, should we do a summer tub? So actually, let me put a poll up. I'm pretty sure I know the answer. But we'll do an actual like poll for the live audience, and then of course replay crew, you get to just easy peasy, bam, leave a comment. Zach, is it okay to do a tub in Texas 100-degree days? Well, I would say it would depend on the size of the tub. You want to have water movement and good water movement. And you might need to do more regular water changes. But I know people who, in those hotter water environments, do outside fish. So I think the big thing is make sure you're selecting a fish that can naturally handle the kind of temperature that your water is going to get to. And the way that I would test this is set up a tub. You will almost assuredly need shade, because when you're getting that kind of temperature, direct sun will make that water ridiculously hot. So you'll probably need something to shade the tub. right? Whether that's coming under eaves, or there's all sorts of ways to build shade for those things. And then test the water temperature, have it, fill it, and leave it for like a week. 3 days, probably only 3 days, honestly, in that kind of heat, and get an idea of what the temperature of the water is throughout the day, right? Take a Saturday, every couple of hours, go measure the temperature real fast. And that'll kind of give you an idea of how hot your water is getting and where you might be able to or might not be able to do certain fish in that tub. Wish list. I live in the perfect environment, with the exception of the black bears that ruin it for me. Ask me how I know. I'm so sorry. So out here, so in my area, there's two things that I deal with: lots of raccoons, and we have herons. And I see herons regularly in my neighborhood because there's a number of like small lakes and other water systems around. So the herons are eating good out here. So one of the things that we have to do inherently in the Seattle area is cover. We have to have some kind of protective cover over any outdoor tubs if we want to be really, really protective of the fish. Now, if we just want to provide food for the herons, no cover at all. They will love us to death. But yeah, I love herons. I think they're amazing, amazing creatures. But if you're trying to keep fish outside, you probably don't want the heron going in there and ruining your Summit Turbo experience by eating all of your fish, right? I'm sure the heron would love the easy snack, because even a 120-gallon tub is nothing compared to a heron, right? As far as their size, their leg length, their ability to just like plop in that, and then it's literally fish in a bucket for them. It's like, it's not so good for the fish. But that's the nature. Like, some folks deal with like river otters near them. As an example, for those that are familiar, Panamericorp is the company, but they own koi.com, and they're not terribly far away from me. They're basically like 2/3 of the way toward Aquarium Co-op if I take the slightly more scenic route and go the opposite side of the lake, that is between me and Aquarium Co-op, right? And they're out in, it's the like Kenmore area of Washington is what it's called. But they were dealing with river otters 6 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. And they were losing thousands of dollars of koi for a little while, until they called out a specialist to trap and remove the otters and take them to a safe place. Because you don't, in the case of otters, you don't kill them, right? That the state is not happy with that, but trap and move is fine and dandy. So they had to get a specialist out who knew how to do that, and it took a few days and all this kind of stuff, but eventually trapped all the river otters and took them to a new home where they would not be dining on very, very fancy koi. Okay, Jughead. We have about 5 months that I can get with keeping fish outside. Unfortunately, last year the weatherman was wrong one night and I lost a whole summer of breeding progress. Did it just get super cold out of nowhere? That's what my guess is. Because that's one of the worries that I have here, is that we have some interesting dips in our general temperatures. And now I have friends that keep ponds all the time. They do them every year. So I can kind of rely on some of their experience. Or I can use things like rice fish, which have a pretty wide range of temperatures they'll accept. So there's a few options there. But yeah, 68% yes. I kind of figured that this would be the vote, but part of me justifying it is tying it to a product that I got offered to do a video on. So, a hard freeze when you're expecting. Wow. Is that Beto or Beto? I just want to make sure. Great Lakes. Help me with the enunciation so that I don't offend you. Or just sound like a dum-dum, one of the two. I ordered 5 Anubias plants after I watched a video you had on YouTube. I'm assuming that's maybe the Aquarium 911 video about how to fix some of the. That's the most recent one I've done on Anubias. Which, by the way, Secondary thing, um, I am getting so many emails for Aquarium 911, so I might. Um, I'm gonna see over the next few weekends if I can batch film all a number of them. So like do instead of typically I try to do like one video a week and one live a week. What I might do is try to film because these are a little easier to film. They're more work on the editing side than they are on the filming side. I might try to film like 3 or 4 in a weekend, and I'm testing that this weekend basically to see if I can, assuming something doesn't get in the way. And then potentially for a period of time we might have more than one video a week. It depends on how paranoid I get about the number of emails coming in versus the speed at which I can put videos out, because at this point there's actually probably enough Aquarium 911s to do almost only Aquarium 911 for the next like 4 months. I've had a lot of emails. But yeah, Copy Girl, I'm a yes on the pond if you have the bandwidth. So the good news is that that should be quotation marks. We'll put big quotation marks around that. That should be relatively easy because I do have a tub that is basically in my backyard. I just have to get it really cleaned out. I have not maintained my backyard at all, so it's like a jungle back there right now. So yeah, I like to refer to it as my domestic game preserve. Because I know there's like bunnies that live out in my backyard, and a bunch of birds, but they love it because they feel safe in it, and I don't care because no one's in my backyard. No one's really looking at my backyard because I got it fenced. So, what size of tub would you be using? So I have a 120-gallon, one of the Rubbermaid stock tubs, right? So the kind of oval shaped tubs. Plan. I'm not 100% sure what fish I would put in there. Most likely, I'd want to put a rainbow, right? Because it's me. I would be actually pretty tempted to put some potentially younger fish out there. Not necessarily like my Running River rainbows as an example, because they're a little older. I doubt they're likely to breed if I put them out there. I would be interested in putting out a fish out there that I thought could give me some fry before I brought them back in, and put them in their permanent home. So I thought about maybe like doing Aves Creek Bozeman, because I don't know if you guys watched Fritz Aquatics, and Jimmy specifically was like running this one, but they had a video like 6-7 days ago. It's fairly recent. I'm sure I'm getting the timeline wrong, where they went and saw Shoreline Aquatics, who is here in the Seattle area, shoreline area of Washington. And one of the fish outside of his Altum Angels that he does is he happens to be breeding quite a lot of Aves Creek Bozeman. So I'm kind of tempted to like get in touch with him, pick up a bunch of Aves Creek, and maybe get some that are slightly older if possible, and try to breed them in a summer tub for a few months and see what happens. Because in that larger environment, you get all sorts of insect larvae and things like that that are actually like really good food sources. Plus, I've got tons of small foods that would work if I really needed to. But yeah, and rainbows plus sunlight is awesome. That is a winning combination. But yeah, so that's my first thought. My second thought would be something like rice fish, because I like rice fish. I just haven't kept them yet. Yeah, or you could go very simple, and like an old tradition of my club is the White Cloud Challenge, where everybody gets 10 White Clouds. You put them in a tub, or you do some other tank over the weekend and just let it happen. My tub has green water, can't even see the fish. See, I would be really happy with green water, to be honest, as long as I keep it well oxygenated, because that helps raise the fry super, super well, right? So if my goal is a breeding project, that's just like free food. And it's free, immensely small food, which is amazing for baby rainbow fish. So there's that. The only thing that I would have to do, other than like get that waterfall box shipped to me to be my water movement, right, is I would need to build a cover so that the rainbow fish don't jump. But that's pretty easy. I can just go to a Home Depot and buy some twin wall polycarbonate and call it a day. Right? That's pretty fast and easy. Jughead, how's your wife's health doing? I tried to talk to you into moving into East Kentucky a while back, but health issues prevented me from moving here. Well, there's a couple of issues that would prevent us from moving there. Number one is that my industry in general doesn't exist in Kentucky. Because recall, during Triple Crown, I spent a week in Kentucky, most of it with one of my best friends. Now he's actually since moved back to Washington, which is kind of funny because I thought he was going to be in Kentucky for the rest of his life. But I really liked Kentucky when I was out there. But the problem is, like, I work in software. And there's really not a lot of software in Kentucky. Not at least that needs software quality assurance people, so software testers. That's just not really present in Kentucky from anything I have ever looked at, which would mean I would have to find an excessively stable remote job. And there was a period of time when I was at Amazon where I'd actually pondered moving somewhere else outside of the Seattle area. But the other thing is, one, my wife's health. There's just phenomenal hospital systems here in the Seattle area. It's one of the best places if you need good medical professionals, is the Seattle area. I mean, there's plenty others. Do not get me wrong. New York, Chicago, basically any of your major metropolises are going to have phenomenal medical staff. But Seattle in particular has one of the best medical schools in the country, the University of Washington. So by nature, we have really, really good medical people here. Two, one of the only things that helps my wife kind of cope with her condition is the old basement tomato, the devil's lettuce, if you will. Right? And if that's not legal in a state, that is an immediate no-go because she needs more than your more recreational medical user, if you will. Yeah, geek boy, soon the only medical will be in big cities. That's one of the things that actually scares me the most about. I want to avoid getting into politics, but honestly, from a pure perspective of just taking care of the populace of a nation is healthcare. So it's one of the things that, like, I don't want to get on the full-on political side of it, but just it sometimes astonishes me that the wealthiest nation in the world does not have a national health service. Kentucky just passed medical marijuana. So yes, but the last I saw, it doesn't go into effect for like another 3 or 4 years. I remember looking at this back when I was in Kentucky when they were working on and the legislation was something like 2028 or something like that. But whatever. Adjust my chair. Sorry. Like sliding out of my chair over here. Mike Standbot, buddy, good to see you. It's been a little bit. I think the most interaction we've had is through seeing some of your pictures randomly on Facebook when I am talking to my family in some of our group chats. Otherwise, I basically ignore Facebook almost entirely. But best way for me to do rainbow fish is spawn the rainbows in a tank with a mop. Keep putting them in a tub for a few weeks. Heck, I have 10 mops in a tub. Yeah, I know you've been breeding like crazy for years now. But I've heard several times that Aves Creeks are pretty good about not cannibalizing their fry too hard. So there's a temptation to kind of try that if you're in a big enough water system with enough cover. And I would probably just jam that thing full of Java fern and call it a day. Right? Because turns out Bentley has a lot of Java fern. And probably some floaters. I'd have figured out a floating plant I want, but yeah. That'd be my goal. I think that's the kind of the route I want to do. So I have to, like, one, email that company back and be like, yeah, I'll take your product. Why not? And then two, I have to go get my tub out of the jungle and back and get it cleaned out. Cause it needs a thorough power washing cause it's been sitting out there and just had like water dry. I think we found a squirrel in there one year. Unfortunately, that's the other thing I want to cover so that like squirrels or some other small animals don't get stuck in there, because that makes me very, very sad when it happens. So I try to generally prevent having water systems outside, is because I'm a big softy and I never like seeing any wildlife die. Yeah, I'm a big softy. They're issuing cards, but the dispensaries are just now coming online. That's interesting. So that's sooner than the last time I looked at anything about Kentucky. I'm still the likelihood of me moving to Kentucky is like because the main reason, okay, like the secondary reason for me to move to Kentucky was one of my best friends who's now moved back this way. So I would all of a sudden be moving opposite side of the country of one of my best friends. So that's kind of counterproductive, you know. Like, but I do generally like I like the way outside of Louisville, especially. I haven't been to Eastern Kentucky, so I can't really talk to that. But like everything outside of Louisville, you know, Taylorsville, Bardstown, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, the old brown water is a good reason. The alternate hobby, but I love the way it looks out there. It's just pretty. It's not as compacted together as it is here in the Seattle area, where like you get to the suburbs that are an hour north, south, whatever of Seattle, and everything is still like just slammed together. Geek boy, you can get bourbon anywhere. You're almost correct. There's a lot of stuff that is Kentucky only at the distilleries that you cannot get everywhere else. That is some of like the coolest stuff because I've tried bunches of it. So I've got friends that have family in Kentucky or they go to Kentucky regularly, and I'm very jealous of them because I cannot. I don't. I'm not balling that hard. All right, YouTube ain't doing that well. YouTube covers my fish costs at this point, which is nice. But yeah, so summer tub, probably gonna do it. I just got to get off my butt and get a few things done. Also, um I have a super secret project in the works. When I can tell you about it, I will tell you about it. If you aren't going to jump into tubbing, try Gadeids. They aren't picky eaters and tolerate wide temperature range. So I'm only gonna do like one tub, Paul. Here's my thing. I like Gadeids, but if I was going to do live bearers, I would probably either do the the Yucatan Molly because I just think that thing is crazy with its giant like. I have some stuff over here that's like trying to slide and fall, and I had to fix that. My desk is kind of a mess right now. Anyway, I love that giant like mohawk sail fin they have going on, and the classic like true Yucatan Molly. Or I would really hardcore try to hunt down the other Luke Roebuck guppy that I really want, which is the bicolor magenta. Um, but realistically, I'm happy with my blue guppies. I'm getting tons of babies. You guys will see another update short for that probably tomorrow or Thursday. Um, I figure I'd just do a weekly one on that until I start doing some other stuff. But I've been looking into a few other things to kind of, I guess, just add some extra things for folks on the channel in general, especially like considering a few things for members if I can. It's been a little tough with my like ridiculous work schedule. It's been kind of killing me. Bicolor magenta. Let me see if I can re-hunt it down. I hear one of my dogs barking. You can see the one's gonna bark. Shantoto, you're fine. Dogs. Let me see here. Why do I have all these like random things? My dogs always have to find something to bark at in the middle of my stream. which is going to make me eventually want to put her back in a crate during stream, and I don't like doing that because she hates being in the crate. Okay, that's the bicolor magenta. I know, right? It's a pretty fish. Oh, quit barking! You're mentioning nothing. What? It's like a delivery person? Oh no! Quit! Quit! Hey, goof! My God. I will say this: if my brother-in-law ordered groceries to show up during my live stream, I am going to have a vigorous conversation. I do this once a week. Come on, man. It's like the most planned thing that happens in my house, as far as I'm concerned. Family. What do you do, right? Guy was interested. You were streaming and felt like the old lady. Oh. Yes, please go away. Please go away. TL, does Bentley do a summertime project? My goal is to do, yes. It basically, aquatic moose, it will depend on how I need to go look at my tub and see how much cleaning work it's going to take. Because I'm not buying a new one right now. But my cousin's here. Sponge Boy Me Bob. Hi. But yeah, my dog protecting the world. KZ Tropicals, not to be confused with KG Tropicals. Have you ever had a reef tank? Nope. And my interest in a reef tank is about that much. I like saltwater, but the only saltwater reef combo I want to keep is clownfish, hosting, and anemones. I have basically no interest in keeping anything else. I do, however, have interest in like the barely on the verge of reef level salt, but doing macroalgae as a macroalgae aquascape, so that I can keep the one. I'm not muted right now, am I? Making sure. The one, if I'm muted, please tell me. My wife is saying that, and I don't know why. I see my wife in chat. I don't think I am. I think, from what I can tell, I have audio going. Okay, good. I was like, I'm looking at my mic. It looks fine. I'm not fond of the make your eyes bleed blue LED lights. Not going to do a reef tank ever. You can get a certain type of reef light that is not like that ridiculous blue. Yeah. So like, I think the fluval reef lights are less all blue and a little bit more that kind of like bluish white, if I remember correctly. But yeah, you can do the Yucatan mollies in saltwater. Yeah, you can do those in saltwater. The other fish that you can do in saltwater is the one super brackish pseudomcgill that's out there, the cyanodorsalis, which is the one fish that I would be willing to go and do that whole like. Why are you sliding around? Sorry, this is going to drive me crazy. This is the part of like the minor OCD I have. If I have things that keep sliding over and over again, I'm like, I fixate on them too much. And the things sitting here on my desk for work, we're sliding around a lot. My boss was very, very nice to me and was like, hey, take these couple of things that you're allowed to take home, because there's a bunch of stuff I can't take home, and just do a bunch of like data analysis work I need done. Because I want you to drive home safely because you had 2.5 hours of sleep. It's like, thank you for not making me drive through the death traffic later in the evening. Thank you. My boss is actually pretty awesome. I quite like my boss, but yeah. I'm down for a lionfish or just corals. I mean, I think lionfish are cool, but like, For me, and I think a lot of you have gotten used to this now. A lot of things with me and fish tend to be behavioral, and that behavioral in the way that like that little like kind of shimmy dance that clownfish do when they're rubbing in the anemones, right? And they're that symbiotic relationship where they use the anemone to protect them, and then they kind of keep things off of the anemone to help the anemone stay healthy. I just really like that entire interaction. And clownfish are just like the right level of like weird and quirky for me when it comes to saltwater fish. But all the corals that sting will murder Cyanodorsalis, which is the one thing I really want to keep in saltwater because they like extremely brackish water or full on salt, and they're just too dumb. This what it comes down to. They'll swim right into the anemone, get stung, and die. So you then with the other stuff, you know what it is. Man, I want to say those minnows. Matt, what minnows? Hold up, what are we talking about? I've clearly missed something. Black Home Depot ones. Oh, just like the ones that have the yellow lids you're talking about, Matt? Is that what the tubs you're using? Or using some of the slightly bigger, like, because I think there's like a Rubbermaid one and there's like a knockoff Rubbermaid one that are like the stock tubs that I do believe several of like your Home Depots keep. Okay, so you're talking like little like 30-ish, 25, 30-ish gallon ones. Because I get those at Costco. But I want something a little bit bigger if I'm gonna do an outdoor tub. Because especially I want to do rainbows, I just need more water. Is what it really comes down to. Unless I was just raising a bunch of little fry, and then maybe I could do small ones. But I just kind of want to. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna do one bigger one, and put a fish that inherently interests me a lot. Also, Stephen P., I noticed you mentioned something about rice fish earlier, and up there the sudden popularity. Rice fish have been very, very popular in the Seattle area for the last like 4-ish years. They perpetually sell really well at all of our club events. So there's a big popularity, and that's probably because like in general, the Asian population in the Seattle area is massive, right? We're a big port city. We're like the sister city to Tokyo, all those kind of things. We have a very, very high level of Asian population here in the area, which if you like Asian food, is amazing because you can find everything under the sun you've ever thought about. Like, as an example, my brothers, and I lovingly call her wife, she's part of the family at this point, right? They have kids together, all that kind of stuff, but I don't think they're officially married, but that doesn't actually matter to me. I don't know why I'm going over the semantics, but anyway, like she's Laotian, as an example, and makes some amazing food. She is an amazing cook. Her whole family. Anytime that we've done a family event with her family, I don't know how they cook as much food as they do. It is in like 3 full massive tables just covered in food, and they're still cooking more. And it's like, this is enough food to feed 100 people, let alone the like 30 that are here. What? It's so wild. Yeah, I just think they're like rice fish are a super cool fish. The way that like they carry their eggs and things like that makes them very interesting. You can get some pseudo koi colorations where they're very much designed to be look top down like koi are, but they're a smaller fish. So it just makes them super super interesting, right? Yeah. I found something amazing and perfect. I think you might enjoy it. Imagine 1,000 swarming shrimp in a 10 to 20 gallon tank. You hardly have to feed it. Water changes 1 to 2 times a year at most. I think it's kind of crazy we don't see them more in the hobby, especially beginners or office tanks. The Ope Ula shrimp? How is that pronounced? Now I gotta go look this up. Hold up. And where are they from? Well, they look a lot like cherries. They look like low-grade cherries. Halocaridina rubra is the official name. Oh, they're Hawaiian. That would make a lot more sense. So Ope Ule? I'm bad at the Hawaiian enunciations. Yeah, are they brackish? Because there's a lot of brackish water in Hawaii where a lot of the shrimp are, and there's quite a number of like not native live bearers that live in the water systems. I can remember this from watching like Jimmy go to Hawaii several times and do videos like, catch and releasing things all over the place. initial setup requires salt or brackish. Do they eventually convert to fresh? That's super interesting. Share the photo. I'm sorry. I'm just over here just like looking stuff up randomly and not sharing with you. This is me being a dumb. Let me see here. Can I want to get one. I want one that's got more than a singular shrimp, but they're all like singular shrimp. There we go. This is from an eBay seller, so you'll have to forgive me a little bit. Put it in this there, put it there. And we'll alter this one I already used earlier for the bicolor magentas. Oh my lord, I gotta clean this folder up. It has so much random junk in it. Not that you guys care about that. Oh, hopefully this isn't too distorted. Boop, there you go. So you can see they kind of just look like a low grade cherry shrimp, right? Lots of red kind of speckly patterns, but a little clearer. Apparently very easy to take care of. Which there's also like the Malawi shrimp, which is relatively easy to take care of, from my understanding from talking to Fish Tree, my buddy Alex. He's been keeping them for years now. I have my yellow shrimp are doing well. That's all I care about. Are those the volcano shrimp? Yeah, I think these are the ones that are in like the water that's around all the volcanoes and stuff. I don't know, pretty cool. Pretty cool if you ask me. Water, salt, lava rock. Way to get shrimp, enjoy. Mark's shrimp tanks just showed these off, huh? All right, I love Mark. He makes great videos. The problem is he only does shrimp, and I keep rainbows. So we're inherently like enemies. And I don't mean actual enemies, but more like we keep things that don't cohabitate very well. And that mostly rainbows are jerks and will eat all the shrimp. So I don't get to enjoy shrimp very often. What do you do? What do you do? All right, let me see here. I think it's kind of crazy we don't see them more in the hobby. Maybe it's just because of that like brackish thing to start, and that scares a lot of people off. Who knows, right? Who knows? Bruce D, I put some of your blue Moscows in about a 30-gallon tub outside under the shade of a big magnolia tree with cherry shrimp, bronze crypts, and pearlweed about a month ago. They are all thriving. Fantastic. Bruce, like, what temperatures are you getting this time of year right now? I'm just curious. You don't have to tell me exactly where you live, but just like, what are your temperatures and like, what are your water temps especially? Because I'm curious how, just based on your areas. Because like for me, I feel like I have such a short window of time to do outdoor stuff. It's like 3 months tops, and that's assuming you don't take something, you put something out that can handle cooler temps. Because for quite a while, it stays pretty cool in the Seattle area at night. Like high 50s, very low 60s. So it's a little tougher. But, the weather's getting wild these days. The weather's getting real wild. All right, let me make sure I didn't miss anything too crazy. Chug it. We have a multi-poo. He protects us from wind weasels every day while my wife is working from home. Yeah, that's Shantoto is quite the barker. She has the loudest bark in the household by far, and she is quite vocal, and she will look at me and she'll like hold her mouth open like this, like, and I can tell she's like basically challenging me, and it's can be frustrating and adorable all at the same time. You know how puppies are. You know how puppies are. I'm looking at you. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Oh man. All right, let me see here. We're getting close, and I am starting to feel. I will let you know, guys. I'm starting to feel the old tank is running on fumes at this point. That 2.5 hours of sleep is saying hello at this point in the day. Low to mid 80s. Okay, yeah. So your water temps are probably like, I would guess 74 to 78 range. Probably depending on time of day and how much, if there's any kind of the direct. I know you said you're shading it, but like if it's more in the active sun as opposed to like, if you're on say the west side of your house and it's eastern sunlight at this point, right? Those kind of things, right? But yeah, that's cool. I'm glad they're doing really well in the tub. Like, I don't see why they wouldn't. If they can do it good in a tank, they look, and I bet they look stellar in sunlight because their color is great under a fish tank light. I cannot imagine how much better they look in sun. Because usually when I try to look at them, I just get glare because I'm inside. Casey Tropicals, I have a 1,000-liter tank. Do you have any tips to lower the energy bill in winter? Well, I mean, here's the first thing. Is that the only tank you're using? Because if you have multiple tanks in a room, can you heat that room? Right? Because if you have just one tank, then it makes sense that it's a little harder. Unless you have fish that can naturally handle slightly cooler water in the winter. Because you got to keep in mind, like, almost all fish, when they're in the wild, they have temperature fluctuations. And there are many fish that actually do good with having that water come down in the winter and giving slightly more winter weather. You know, it's just a matter of like, what kind of fish are you keeping? This is where there's lots of questions, right? It's really hard to give a straight answer when there's so many variables to, like, what kind of fish are you keeping? What kind of water flow do you have? Do you have lids on your tanks, or is it open? So are we going to deal with more evaporation and more water movement that will naturally cool the water? Right? We're going to have more gas exchange. We're pushing lots of oxygen into the tank. Well, if we're pushing oxygen from outside the room that is naturally a little cooler into that warm tank, guess what that's going to do? Cool the tank a little bit, right? So there's a lot of like little variables that we have to think about. The short answer is, do we need to keep the temps as high the entire time? Can we bring them down? Let's say we're keeping our tank at 78. Can we bring it down to 74? Because if we bring it down to 74, guess what? That's a cheaper bill. How big is your heater? Because one thing you might find is that, let's say your power bill on that tank costs you $25 a month. But let's just say, right? It's probably more than that. Still, let's say it's $25 a month. Could you go out and get a smaller heater so that it uses less power, and then over the course of that first year, it basically pays for itself, and then subsequent years, now you're saving money because you're not pushing as many watts the entire time to keep that thing going. Right? So there's lots of little things, there's lots of ways that we could take as an angle to make some adjustments to try and solve the problem you're trying to solve. But the problem is, like, we need just the size of the tank and lower energy bill, right? You can see where I have a lot of questions before I can give advice, because I could be like, yeah, of course, just turn your temperature down. Then you're like, hey man, I'm doing discus. And be like, oh, well, I probably don't want to turn the temperature down because they need to be hot, or you're going to kill them, right? Or maybe it's like German blue rams or something like that, right? So there's a lot of like little variables that we would need to consider before we just like fire off an answer. Because I think people who don't ask those questions are setting you up for failure. And that's no fun, right? We never want to do a failure because we lose fish, especially, right? With temperature is concerned. That's no fun. Nobody's having a good day, right? Can you repeat the story of when you broke your AquaClear? You said, I've seen a number of AquaClears break, and my wife and I thought it was hilarious. We quote you all the time. So I've had AquaClears on the side of a tank, right? And it's been in an area where I can move into because I have other pieces of equipment in kind of the zone where a bunch of equipment is. And me being a larger person, every once in a while, I'm not paying enough attention, and I had bonked an AquaClear that was sitting on the side of a tank. And I basically sat above CO2 tanks that I had for pushing CO2 to a couple tanks. And at one point, I cracked it with my elbow, and that rigid plastic that it has pushed against the sidewall of the tank, and that glass is a lot stronger, formed a crack in the body, game over. Now, good news, I had a backup AquaClear, because for a while, when I was like really building out lots and lots of tanks in my house, I was getting a bunch of like used filters really, really cheap out of my club. And because it came from club members, for the most part, I knew that they were solid. It was just a lot of people who were like, "Yeah, I'm changing my tanks," or like, I'm bringing the number of tanks down. So instead of having 10 tanks, I'm going to go down to 4, and I don't need this many filters and that kind of stuff, right? They would just sell off extra equipment, and it's very common in my club to not be a price gouger and just like sell your used equipment fairly cheap. Tanks is a little bit of a different story, especially when it comes to like nicer acrylic tanks, or if you have like a particularly nice light, as an example. You might not see those go dirt cheap, but often they go to club auctions and like they go for pennies compared to what they should. So it just ends up that very often there are really good deals when it comes to equipment in my club. So if you're in the Seattle area, go to Greater Seattle Aquarium Society events and you might get yourself some deals. That's all I'm saying. We have a small auction at every meeting, and we have big auctions twice a year, and there is always something where me and a number of my fellow hobbyists are like, that price is ridiculously low. And then other things that we don't understand how the price is going for as much as it is. So you give some, you get some, right? But yeah, that would be my primary story of breaking one. I've just seen a number of stories like that where somebody like hip checks it on accident. They're moving through and they're moving too quick, and they push into it or something like that, and ends up cracking the external body of the filter, especially in the older ones. The newer ones are a little more flexible, which is nice. However, I have seen more and more reports of people, because of some of the changes in design, having stuff getting into the motor and getting the motor to stop than in the older design. So there's some back and forths there. Do you have a favorite fast-growing sword plant? Franz Stoffels. Franz is a good one. Although for it to truly grow fast, you need just a tiny amount of CO2. Tiny amount. But we're talking like 3 bubbles a second in 125 gallon levels of CO2. So almost nothing. But that little bit is really good. The other one that I like that grows at a pretty reasonable pace is the Marble Queen sword. But these are both swords that get big. So not something you're going to put in a smaller tank. These are ones that are going to want a big, tall tank. If you wanted something smaller that grows at a reasonable speed, man, what is I think it's the flame sword. Hold on. I remember its actual species name. We got them at the coop, so I imagine I can just go look at their plants and figure it out. Right? Unless, of course, they're sold out, which is possible. It's not the red melon sword. I know that. Although they look very... Or maybe it is red melon sword. Hold on. Boop, boop, boop. No, not the flame, just the like red flame sword, which why do you not have? There it is. So Echinodorus red flame, so not a flame, not the purple knight sword, which is the common name. I do love that sword a lot though, so there's that. Let me see if I can see it. The problem is everything you ever see is like immersed growth. Yeah, red flame sword. Once you have them, they look a lot like melon swords, but they grow like crazy when they're happy, especially with a small amount of CO2. And then they get those nice red leaves. The ones that are in brother-in-law James's tank look phenomenal, Enki. Which, by the way, good to see you, Enki. Flowgrow has all the plant pictures. I'm sure. I only know so many things, man. I only know so many things, Nabokov fan. I unfortunately do not have infinite wisdom. I have a moderate amount. It's very focused wisdom. Robert, Sand used to stop mine all the time. I have goldfish and they love to spit. Yeah. I had that happen when I was doing multis, so shell dwellers. They would re-engineer the sand all the time and spit little bits of sand and slowly clogged up and killed a motor in one aqua clear, and I had to just speed replace it with a different one. Gotta love those. I love those sand spitting fish. It's just, I'm going to re-engineer everything you thought you wanted, or like some of the earth eaters, right? Oh man, but we keep them for reasons, mostly because we love them. I have a variety of tank sizes that I want to throw some swords in, from 5 gallon single beta to 125 gallon. So I probably wouldn't put any swords in a 125. I would do like crypts to kind of get a faux sword in there, unless you're doing like the small carpenters, like Liliopsis brasiliensis, the micro sword, or some of those other like smaller ones, because there really aren't any good swords that stay small enough for a 5 gallon, if you were to ask me. But once you start getting to like 20 gallons, you can look at things like melon swords because they stay relatively small. Or if you can get the a flame sword to stay alive, the purple knight sword, it's really pretty, but it can be really tough to get it to initially grow from tissue culture. But once you get it healthy, it's a solid plant. That's I've struggled with it several times, and I keep trying because I just love the way it looks when it's happy. So yeah, I will keep that struggle going. But yeah, and then when you get to big ones, that's easy. If you get to 125, there's a lot of swords you can keep. Lots and lots of swords. Hydrocore Ambosa Compact is also another one that kind of looks like a sword, but is better in smaller aquariums. That's a good suggestion, Nabokov fan. Really appreciate that. Appreciate it. All right, gang. Um, excuse me. We're gonna end this bad boy here a few minutes early. I know, but I'm running out of gas very, very fast. Yeah, get off this live and get to sleep. I need sleep. I need to like eat some dinner real fast and then get some sleep. So, gang, I want to thank you all so much for being here. Yeah, just be on the lookout. We got some stuff coming. I'm working on a few things. I'm trying to do a few extra things. I got a lot of Aquarium 911. If you've put in an Aquarium 911 request, I'm getting to it. I promise. There's just a bunch of them. So anyway, everybody, as always, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.